Hi guys, first things first, just want to go through the way in which you can use the 2-minute fib to try and capitalize on this extreme volatility that we're seeing at the moment. So the whole idea of the 2-minute fib is just to use what you're seeing in the golden anchor, but use it in a smaller time frame for quicker alerts, particularly at the open. So we can really try and gauge what is happening at the open. I think this was Tuesday, Tuesday or Wednesday. We opened with a huge gap, and this was the 2-minute chart with the fibs on the gap, which was 25,700 and 27,076. And you can see, I'll give you a few examples, but so we chopped around a lot at the open, came right into this little trend line support. But the main thing to focus on here is the support that we had at that price level. Okay, and then even if you didn't take that dip, I'm not suggesting 1 minute you take a dip like that. You could, if it's really, you could take a throwaway position, and then if it works, add to it. But later on so that was at the open at around about 4 o'clock. We were chopping around here, pushing up and then spending a lot of time at the lows. But what we were doing, we were holding 50%. That was the critical thing. Around about 4 or 5 o'clock, we were holding that 50%. So that's how this can help you. If you're holding a key fib level, a key zone, then just watch out for that. And ultimately into the close, and just slightly beyond, I think we went right back to the high of the whole fib chart. Okay, let's take a look at some other examples. Here is, now this is Friday's, we'll come back to that in a minute. That's the one we just looked at. Okay, let's just look at that in terms of the golden anchor as well. The golden anchor was forming this little squeeze pattern. So if you put a trend line across the lows, trend line across the highs, you can see later on in the session, around about 5, 6 o'clock I think it was, we broke higher. Still throwing in some lower closes, which I have to admit fooled me, and then we just pushed up. I just expected that to sell and it just didn't happen. Right, let's look at some other examples. This is non-farm payroll on Friday. So here we're fibbed on the 215 level, and this was the reaction as we got into the open. Sorry, close to 5 to 3 o'clock. So 25-30 minutes into the open, we had this little pickup, dipped right close to the 215 support, and then where did we go? Right into that fib level. That's the 50%. So we came into the low of the inner zone, pulled back and did another test. Excuse me, another test of the same area, and then you'll see we went right into the floor of the open trading range. We dipped underneath it, and then 10 minutes into the last hour we shot up to the 50%. So there's some big clues here. It respected the zone, the floor of the inner zone, respected the open trading range in after 10 minutes into the last hour, and then fired up to the 50%. Let's look at some other examples. That's non-farm payroll as well. Now this is taken from the perspective of the gaps. This is fibbed. That's the gap up there, 26,115, give or take a couple of pips. And you can see we had, this is a fib zone up here that we hit in the European session, and it proved to be resistance for those first two big pushes higher, and then we got to the top of that zone into the close. So it's a slightly different way of looking at it, but I think if you look at the overall, concentrate on the overall range, and the previous fib I showed you was set up 15 minutes before the open. So this was set up from the previous day's high and the 215 low. So it's a sort of dynamic fib. We're looking at the fibs that are created literally just before the open. We'll go through this during the week anyway. Let me see if I've got some. Where have I got some other examples? Oh, this is. I think this was Thursday. Now we were long here into. We've got a 300 pip move. Now it didn't hit the 50%. This is taken from the 3 o'clock low and the gap. And so you can see we got that was the this is the open trading range. Came out of the open range and then started doing a 1, 2, 3 wave to the upside. And we hit 300 pip level. Like I said, it didn't quite hit the 50%, and then dropped and ultimately came to the 127 extension. And then overnight we actually did a proper technical fade. We didn't do a proper technical fade here, which stumped me a bit. Made me miss part of this move, and then into the Asian peak and the Asian coming to the Asian close, we actually did a 161 extension. So these are really, really useful fibs. It's just a question of getting used to it. I've been working on this for quite a while, but now I'm just bringing it to the fore because of the volatility so extreme. Right, this last example, there's the gap, 25,900. We had a peak about an hour and a half before the open at 26,640, and again we didn't quite hit the 50%. We held this zone and ultimately wound our way. This is 4th of March openly. Oh, there's the fade. This is Wednesday. We faded just after 6 o'clock and ultimately went to the plus 161. Alright, I'll go into more details as we unfolds. Let's look at the bigger picture for a moment. Right, this is the weekly chart. Here is the high of 4 weeks back. This is the dramatic leg down 2 weeks ago, and this is last week. So we're hitting this fib level. We have had a higher close, and this is the high of the week. So that's the open. We opened above 25,000 and closed 25.8. So where do we go from here? Well, we have, if we pan out of it, you can see we've got this trend line coming across the highs, which we've hit and closed underneath. We've closed underneath this fib, so we went underneath the fib level 24,960, and we just held it, but it's a feeble close. If we now drill down to the daily, you can see this big move on Monday. We closed higher on Wednesday, and end of the week we've only just closed above this 50%. This is fibs on the 2019 range. So I'm looking for this to potentially crash into 26.5, this resistance level, and then go back to 24.9, potentially lower. Okay, so I'm not seeing, I don't think this is going to create a reversal here. Of course, I will change that if we close above 26.5. Which is the actual figure I'm looking to short. You can see this trend line coming in from December 3 lows and the Feb 28 lows. I'm looking for this to come down to test these levels here and possibly this fib level. So this is where I think if we are going to get a reversal, I think we need to come right the way down here. I've looked through the Dow 30 and they all, overall, they all look lower. They don't look to me as if they're reversing, potentially reversing. And so with this feeble selling in the second half of the week, then it suggests to me that there isn't buyers coming in. Okay, and so I would expect, now we might start off the week nice and short. But let's see, if we pick up in the first half of the week, I'd still look for shorts in the second half of the week. So a lot of it's going to be dependent on the gap. So here we are now looking at a 1 hour chart. So I'm drilling right down to the 1 hour chart. Here's the resistance I've got up here. So I've marked this sell signal that we had in the 1 hour chart here at 5 o'clock on Thursday. So I think that will get retested. I think 26.4, 26.5 will get retested. Now, so if we fail around here, and 650 is the top of that area, if we come up to there and then get some sell signals up here, then I think we can really start to break down. Okay, so let's just see how we open, and yeah, and let's see if this pans out. So I'll be updating you on this level up here as the week unfolds. Okay, overall, overall difficult week because we looked very positive here. It's only in the back end of these days that was the back end of Tuesday we saw the weakness. We saw some weakness here and then ploughed up, so this caught me out. This is why I was shorting, because we were under this level here, lower closes, and then just into the last hour, the second half of the session, we started picking up and running. Okay, so let's just see if we can pick our way through this week, but I will be using that 2-minute chart. Alright, I hope that helps, and I'll look forward to seeing what happens on Monday. Bye for now. Oh, don't forget the US clocks have gone forward. So the Dow opens at 1:30, not 2:30. Don't forget. Okay, see you then.